A dog that constantly lends a helping hand but was also somewhat naughty is introduced in this film's opening scene. The judge's dog, Buck, resides in a pleasant neighborhood at the judge's residence. One day, the judge's servant drove him to the market. He made a lot of jokes and thoroughly liked himself here. He is the judge's good dog, thus no one ever hurts him. After observing him, a man remarks that the dog is well-bred. Such a dog is necessary in a Canadian gold mine. This was being heard by the judge's gardener. Today was the judge's birthday. As soon as Buck goes to wake up his children, he enters into bed hastily and makes a mess there, as Buck was of enormous size. The house, the chef serving the judge was preparing delectable meals in the kitchen. But she conceals that when Buck arrives so he won't be able to see these meals, because she is aware of Buck's intended timing for ruining everything. Buck walks into the kitchen and stops in front of her, looking innocent. She orders him from the kitchen and informs him that if he acts well around everyone, he will receive the supper. When he spots a rabbit outdoors, he chases after him and pokes his head into a tree. He takes a quick look at a fancy table in the park while this is happening. Due to the judge's birthday, that was decorated with various types of food. His pals were nearby. Buck was also asked to come when it came to taking pictures. A chunk of flesh may be seen in Buck's mouth after the judge views Buck's image that was taken, and the table that Buck trashed before the visitors showed up. The judge, who has become quite enraged, sentences him to spend one night outside. It was lightning-related weather outside, which was pretty dangerous. While repeatedly glancing towards the door, Buck hears the sound of the gardener. A cookie is thrown into the wagon as he approaches him and the gardener. Buck, who was pretty hungry, enters the carriage to grab that. When the gardener closes the door, Buck realizes that the gardener had been robbing someone of money. As soon as he saw the man talking about Buck, he realized that he had sold him. Once Buck arrived there, he boarded the train after being placed in a crate. When Buck awakens, he barks and demands food. A man arrives later and opens the box while holding a stick. He frequently beats him, and Buck receives his first beating from him. Buck finds a chance to escape from there and continues to fight. When he emerges, he discovers that he is on a ship that is completely submerged in water, and he understands that he is helpless to go. When the ship eventually arrives at its location, Buck was startledly observing everyone. Later, snow begins to fall, which Buck had never seen before. After witnessing it, he was playing in the snowfall and appeared to be pretty joyful. He later releases his rope and departs from that location. Later, we see John, an elderly man. He had left his home and was moving. He punches Buck in the interim, and they now know each other. Buck was now kept with the dogs that had to be put up for sale. He tries to make friends with the dogs, but no one does. Later, a man shows up who adores Buck. After making a purchase, he takes the man with him. He was a postman. To drive his automobile on the ice, he requires a dog. Buck is shackled. He was collared and placed with the other dogs. Buck cannot walk on ice as the other dogs advance. He has a lot of difficulties walking on the ice. He shook and eventually collapses. The mailman is aware that Buck is unable to walk. After erecting the tent, at night, the postman and his helper slept there. Buck causes trouble there. He sends the helper away from there and then spends the night with the mailman. As the assistant awakens, she orders Buck to leave the tent. Buck is startled to see a black wolf outside and shudders at the sight of him. He was pursuing him when he noticed a dog sleeping nearby after digging a ditch. He then continues and creates a new ditch for Buck and places him in his proper position. Buck has now mastered the art of sleeping on ice. The following morning, they set off on their adventure, but Buck is still unable to navigate the ice. After delivering their letters, they reach ahead, and once more night falls. For dinner, fish was made available to all the dogs. Also, a dog steals seafood from another dog en route. When Buck notices this, He gives the man his dinner, which shocked the other dogs. A dog was drinking water the following morning after spending the night there. The second dog stops the other dog when he wants to drink water and rags him. When Buck notices this, he breaks the ice from the opposite side and brings out water, and supplies all the dogs with water, and they all grow content with Buck. They start to like him, and the other dog, who forbids others to drink water, was getting angry. Buck can now move smoothly on ice. One day, while inspecting the ice, the postman's assistant plunges into the sea. When Buck realizes this, he risks his own life to save the assistant. At first she didn't notice Buck, but now she likes Buck. She feeds him after calling him with her at night. This was being observed by the other dog, who began to feel envious of him. When Buck sees a bunny, the postman and the assistant fall asleep. He starts joking around with the bunny. In the interim, a different dog shows up and devours the rabbit, and confronts Buck. Additionally, that assault causes Buck to pass out. He is thrown aside when the black wolf suddenly appears, identical to the black wolf Buck has observed. The postman calls Buck, who attacked Buck in the morning. He was finding him even though he wasn't there since he had tied him up in front of his slit. However, Buck is urging him to tie him in front of the slit and is moving quickly. The postman was particularly pleased to see him because of his high level of energy. He turns to face the side where ice was tumbling from the mountains. The moment Buck notices it, the other person is asked to move aside. The black wolf Buck used to frequently see appears on his front side. He prevents everyone from going through there and into a cave. After witnessing this, the mailman realizes that Buck is actually an adult dog. His maturity and quickness enable them to get at their destination. After reading the letters that were delivered to them, everyone was joyful. John was also present and saw Buck, who hit John first. While at home, he was composing a letter to his wife, noting that it was his son's birthday but that he was no longer alive. He has departed from his home as a result. We learn through Buck's repeated sighting of the black wolf that whenever he sees the wolf, positive things always happen to him. The following morning, the mailman must take the letters from this point. When John becomes late, Buck approaches to take the letter from him after hearing his voice coming from behind. After numerous days, the postman finally gets a letter from the government to return following the sale of all the dogs. He regrets having to leave all the dogs. He then moves on, leaving all the dogs behind, and sees what else he can do. There, all the dogs are bought by a wealthy man. He asks to go after chaining all the dogs with his slit while looking for riches. However, the luggage was too heavy for Buck and his friends to carry. John was getting ready to go there when he noticed this, and he said, "That poses a threat equal to going there." However, the wealthy man disagrees and pursues stealing them. On the journey, Buck's condition worsens and he starts to feel dizzy. John arrived just as the wealthy man was ready to murder him. John makes an effort to convince him to back off. The wealthy man was really enraged by the gold hunger and doesn't listen to anyone. He is taken to John's house after John releases him from his slit. When Buck awakens 2 days later, John tells him, "Your friends have all passed away, and you are now also free. You can go wherever you want, but poor Buck has no home, so where did he go?" John departs one day to a bar to get a drink, and Buck follows him there. The same wealthy individual who attacked John shows up there. He won't let Buck leave with his other friends, and as a result, they've all passed away. Buck strikes him when he notices this. He retreats while aiming his gun at John. The folks who were present ejected the wealthy individuals from the area. John used to consume a lot of alcohol, but Buck forbade it. One day, John sat on his bottle and concealed it in the ice. John tries to kick him off, but his weight prevents him from doing so. One day, John hands him a map and informs him that it depicts a location with has a great deal of gold in it. "Everyone follows this map," my kid said as he drew a line on it. We'll do the same. Let's go find the gold by following this path. They board the ship to begin their voyage. The ship develops a hole the following day as a result of the water's rapid flow. They leave the ship and proceed on foot to their destination. They locate a home and are delighted to see it. However, that wealthy man, who was looking for gold, goes to John's house with the intention of killing him. He discovers the map in the interim and realizes where John has disappeared. One day, while having a bath, he discovers some gold in the stream. He becomes very happy and realizes that they have reached in a right place. Buck dives into the water after seeing him, and he puts a stone in his mouth, and John says, "No, this isn't the one." He again dives into the water, and this time he finds a huge piece of gold. When he sees the small piece in his mouth, he throws it and says it might not be the one, and John laughs at his action. Meanwhile, a white wolf was watching them while standing there. When Buck chases her, she runs away. One day this pack of wolves was hunting, and suddenly one of their companions falls into the water. He was floating with the flow of water. Buck saves him after seeing them, and he becomes friend of all the wolves. Now Buck used to spend most of the time with them, and the poor John starts to live alone. And he used to bring hunt for John on daily basis. One day Buck comes late and John drinks a lot. Now Buck realizes and comes back home. The next morning, White Wolf calls him and he goes with her. Now John realizes that he has got his family and he was happy. John also feels alone, so he decides to return home. He throws all the big pieces of gold into the water. He keeps the small gold pieces with him, saying this is enough for him. He tells Buck, "You've got your family and I'll also return tomorrow." Buck grows sad after hearing this, and he goes to the White Wolf. John senses someone's sound, and when he goes out to check, there was that rich man who shoots John. The light that John has in his hands falls down, and as a result the whole house catches fire. The rich man has come to take the gold from John, and he gets mad to see it. Meanwhile, Buck arrives there and pushes that rich man into the fire. The rich man dies, and John was quite injured because he was hit by a bullet. While dying, he informs Buck, "My son, this is your house and you'll live here," and dies. The White Wolf takes Buck with him. After some time, we see the White Wolf and Buck were a couple. They have children as well, and Buck was the leader of their pack. He often visits the place along with his pack where John has died. Buck was quite happy in this jungle, and the movie ends with this. Gratitude. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.